Good evening, my fellow friends, my fellow neighbors, and my fellow shining stars. Thank you for spending some time with us here in our neighborhood tonight and this week here at Empowered Publicity. It is the next trolley stop here at Empowered Publicity, episode number 81 here of the Children's Book Spotlight Series. 1981 was a great year. I was actually born August 18th, 1981. So to all of you who were born in 1981, or for those of you who were born on August 18th, thank you for spending some time with us here this evening and this week. Shortly after 7 o'clock Eastern Time, June the 22nd, for all of our friends and neighbors out on the West Coast, especially those out in the San Diego, California area, thank you for spending some time with us. For all of you, to all of you, wherever you are and wherever you may be, we hope that you have had a tremendous official start to your summer. It's no longer that in-between stage between spring and summer. It's officially past solstice now. We had a great solar eclipse, so much magic, so many miracles. We hope that all of the dads out there, the fathers, the grandfathers, the godfathers, the fathers-to-be, and the father figures, we hope that all of you had a blessed and fantastic Father's Day as well. Yes, we're starting to bridge out and venture out from this extended quarantine that we are in. You know, restaurants are starting to open up a little bit more, depending upon wherever you are at, wherever you are residing in this country of ours. So to all of you who have still been kind of moving through some things, whether it be as the result of the current climate in some way, shape, or form, or if you're just moving through a little bit of a smaller challenge, so to speak, we are here to open up your hearts and to be able to put smiles on your faces and in your hearts this week here at the Children's Book Spotlight Series. And it's interesting because when we think of the word extended quarantine, the phrase extended quarantine, I should say, we think of the word home, right? Many of us, we spent maybe more time in our homes, whether it be our townhouses, our homes, our apartments, wherever we hang our hat, right? And I think that many of us started to get a much more broader and deeper understanding of what the term home actually means. Well, one of our newest neighbors is here to help us remember that home is not just a place where you live, where you reside, where you hang your hat, so to speak, but home is where the heart is. Such a beautiful, brand new children's book. It is now available. I love the color, by the way. It's almost kind of like a light forest green tealish, but you can check out Jessica Dawn's brand new release, Stay at Home. We're going to be talking about it, of course, this week on the Children's Book Spotlight Series. You can head on over to Jessica's official website, myfirst.com. That's with the number one, so MY1ST.com. When you head on over to Amazon, you can also, if you feel guided to do so, feel free to leave a 5-star review on Amazon. Our featured guest here this week on the Children's Book Spotlight Series, Jessica Dawn. And of course, we are talking about home is where the heart is. Such a perfect and divinely timed message. Jessica, thank you for spending some time with us here this evening and this week. You are all the way out on the West Coast, the Pacific Northwest to be precise. That is where you hang your hat, correct?
That's right.
Thank you for spending some time with us here this week on the program. How are things with you?
Good. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Really looking forward to this conversation tonight. I feel that, as I mentioned kind of in the preface of introducing you, we spent a lot of time at home, maybe more than what we realized, more than what we thought. We kind of know every little nook and cranny of our houses right now, but a lot of good has come from this. It's very easy to see, 120,000 people transitioning, losing their lives, people losing their jobs, nearly 50 million Americans out of work. There's a lot of negative to look at. But what happened over the course of the past several months actually inspired you to be able to pen this beautiful children's book. For those who are becoming neighbors with you for the first time this evening and this week on the Children's Book Spotlight Series, could you share with us a little bit more about the inspiration and how this book came to be?
Yeah, thank you. I have a daughter in kindergarten, and when we first had to stay at home, we were pretty excited, but very shortly, we got pretty squirrely. One of the pages in the book is actually of a squirrel, and it was the first page I did because we're always very active outside, playing with friends, running around. So the the idea of staying put was fairly difficult for us at first. So I started finding more and more things that also stay home, and we would kind of play act as those things, and it made it easier and easier for us to have fun and relax and stay at home.
And I think that that's obviously important because one of the things that we obviously had to do was it was important for us to be able to go with the flow of things because obviously, you know, many of us, we had different sorts of things that we had planned. I know for myself, I was planning out being in San Diego on March 23rd, March 24th, and that obviously got shelved in the process. Creativity is one of the things that has increased because, you know, whether if a person is more of an empath, right? You know, where it's a matter of just, you know, kind of conserving and preserving your energy, yet wanting to help the world. You know, sometimes people want to be able to give themselves that downtime. To be able to spend this time creating this book, how is it a little bit different from yourself? Because when you're creating something and you have the freedom to, you know, just travel wherever you want to go and just kind of put that creativity on hold, right? Creativity in the way in which we knew it, you know, pre-COVID-19 and post-COVID-19, it seems that we value creativity more. It seems that the creativity has more of a passion and a flair. Could you talk to our listeners, could you talk to our viewers, our friends and neighbors about the creation process and how this book was different versus anything else that you ever created before?
Yeah, so it came together fairly quickly. I wrote it in the month of March when we were first stuck at home. And I would do a page, and my kindergartner would actually edit it for me. And she worked very closely with me on this project and let me know which pages were good and which ones didn't quite make the cut. So we would every day we would find inspiration. We would kind of search the world using our computer. So we would look out for different animals and different creatures that stayed at home. And we looked to our own garden, and there's activities in the book. So each day that we wrote about an activity, we actually performed the activity. So when there's a blanket fort in the book, we actually built several versions of our own blanket fort. So we actually lived out this book in the month of March.
Again, for those of you who are just tuning in, welcome to an all-new edition of the Empowered Publicity Children's Book Spotlight Series, episode number 81. We are sharing the message of home is where the heart is. It kind of feels like the Children's Book Spotlight Series has turned into a Hallmark special, right? or kind of like an after-school special. Home is where the heart is. Right. We are joined by children's illustrator and children's author Jessica Dawn. We are beginning to share more about the release of her brand new children's book, Stay at Home. Again, you can head on over to Amazon. Feel free to leave a 5-star review if you feel guided to do so. Like, by the way, like one of the cutest covers out of any children's book in 2020. Just, I mean, I can't even describe it and put it into words. If you actually could put the cover into words, what is it that you'd like to share with our listeners and viewers just about putting the cover together, the cover art of the book alone?
So typically when I pick a cover for my books, I finish illustrating the whole book first, and I look through which picture kind of grabs me or speaks to me the most. And by far, this hedgehog is too cute, and he's all cuddled up for hibernation in the fall, surrounded by those nice fall leaves. So it was it was decided between my friends and my daughter and I that absolutely he was the cutest and needed to be the star of the show.
It's interesting because it seems like, you know, the in some way, shape, or form, we've all been impacted by what's happened over the past several months. This little hedgehog just looks like everything's going according to plan, right? He's like, yep, I'm sleeping, I'm enjoying myself, right? Everything's fine. Everything is how it should be. All is well. Yeah. Needless to say, our time in extended quarantine, it's interesting because I feel like, you know, many of us, we had things that we wanted to work on. You know, sometimes people may refer to it as self-development. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people may want to refer to it as healing. Sometimes it's two in the same, right? Right. And kind of like the universe gave us the opportunity to said, you ain't going anywhere, right? You're taking the time, you know, whatever it is that you're moving through, whether it be judgment of self, whether it be guilt and shame, whether it be, you know, just feeling bad about yourself, What were some of the things that you felt that our time at home helped us? In addition to what I had alluded to and shared, what did our time at home in extended quarantine, do you feel, teach us about not only ourselves,
Mm.
but also the world as well, too?
Yeah, so it's really interesting how different people around the world have reacted. And for us in our home, we decided to just grab the opportunity and to snuggle up as a family. We did more popcorn and movie nights, more creativity. I did some self work. I actually was um, a lot of this sketching and writing I did was self reflective, and I kind of see myself in some of the pages. So, um, yeah, it's been a really great time to look inwardly and to look to your surroundings.
When we're talking about the message, Jessica, of home is where the heart is, right? It's very interesting because when we're doing this self-reflective work, when we're doing this internal work, it's kind of like we want to spend more time in our hearts, right? But then rises up the hurts or the wounds or the thorns, right? At the times we got burned, the times we got hurt. We replay old storylines in the back of our mind. But the only way that we can move forward is if we take the time to do that. How important do you feel, not just in this extended quarantine time that we were in, we're putting that in the past tense where it obviously belongs, right? But we're stepping forward into the new. As I mentioned, solstice, we're talking about the solar eclipse, like the beginning of summer. There's this new fresh energy that's here as of right now. How important is it for us to be able to stay in our hearts and recognizing that that is truly where our home is?
Yeah, for me, it's really like a connection with self and a connection with family. So I think it's really important. I know I've gotten a lot closer to my daughter, and we've had the time to just sit and be still. And actually, when she started saying she was bored, I thought that was fantastic because boredom is a gateway to creativity. And so moving past the boredom and past being stuck at home has kind of opened us up to move forward and be creative. And as we move into summer and hopefully we get to go outside more, we'll bring those connections with us and that healing with us so we can move forward in a much stronger way than I think would have been possible if we had just carried on with our day to day.
This may seem like um, a very simple question, but I think that sometimes we tend to make the simplest things the most complex, especially as adults. Kids, a little bit different, right? But we tend to like love ourselves, forgive ourselves, be kind to others, right?
Yeah.
Those things we make more complex.
Mm.
When it comes to taking the time to be in our heart, if there's someone that is tuning into this week's program and says, I want to be in my heart. I want to remember the feeling of being at home within myself, not seeking and searching out externally, whether it be in external relationships, whether it be in drugs, whether it be in food and other sorts of vices. What would you tell our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors that are feeling challenged to remembering the feeling of being at home within themselves and within their heart? And what would be some words of comfort and some suggestions that you can share with them to be able to help them not only be in their heart just a little bit, but have that be their new residing place for the second half of 2020 and beyond?
I mean, that is a huge question. Um, I would say it's going to be different for each person, but overall, I would just say, you know, taking time to be quiet and hear yourself and know what what you feel and think, and moving forward with just being comfortable to be more present and just to relax more. I know for me, during this time my anxiety has gone up and down and it's been a roller coaster, but there's a lot of times when I just sit and breathe. And it helps me kind of come back and be fully present where I am.
There's long since been said, and if we allow ourselves to realize that there is that connection with breathing and with our heart, right? And there's times when, if we're stressed out, like our breathing may feel a little bit labored, we may feel like our heart rate's a little bit off, that sort of thing. So again, and being able, I think one of the other things that comes to mind, Jessica, is the fact that we know what that feeling is like. We know what that feeling is, being in our hearts. Like when we're first born, when we're into this world, when we're babies, that's all we know. And then I think this is, I'll take a page out of the late Dr. Wayne Dyer, one of our favorite neighbors here at Empowered Publicity. And I remember he shared this in several of his PBS specials and his books. And it's kind of like, the parents, right, who were kind of subjected to certain sort of cultures and conditioning, kind of like take the baby from God and say, we'll take it from here, right? And then this is when, the child is first introduced to anxiety and to stress. And that's when they can tend to be, more in their head, or it's this kind of like Mexican hat dance between like the head and the heart. Again, for those of you who are just tuning in, I just actually realized that the color of my nameplate and Jessica's nameplate, it's a light green, and light green is the color of the heart chakra. Go figure. Here on the Children's Book Spotlight Series this week, again, episode number 81, we are sharing the message of Home is Where the Heart Is, and also the brand new children's book release, Stay at Home. Again, Jessica did an amazing job not only penning this book, but also illustrating it. You can head on over to her official website, myfirst.com. That's with the number 1. If you type in myfirst.com, it may lead you somewhere, but it won't lead you to Jessica's site. So we encourage you to be able to head on over to her website as well. You can check out amazon.com. Feel free to leave your 5-star review for Stay at Home if you feel guided to do so. If anything, just based on the cover of the book alone, like this is a 5-star cover art. How can you give a cute little hedgehog 3 stars? Because this cute little hedgehog is not going to have the smile on the face if you give it a 3-star review, needless to say. It's interesting because this summer is a little different, right? Even though we're starting to venture out, right? People are starting to do more road trips right now, whether it be just, going to the local park or maybe, going across the country, but kind of like the old National Lampoon's Vacation with Clark Griswold, everyone hopping in the station wagon and just going across the country sort of thing, right? But the summer is a little bit different. Some people may be having what are referred to as staycations. I haven't used that term in a while, and I kind of saw it like as a trending thing on Instagram, and I'm like, this makes sense, right? Maybe we'll talk about this. But as the result of being sequestered in our homes for 3 months, many of us maybe would want to kind of stay within our neighborhoods, right? When we had the opportunities to interview David Sable a couple of weeks ago on the Children's Book Spotlight Series, the senior advisor of WPP and the author of the brand new release, What Would You Wish For? Jessica, he talked about how he believes that neighborhoods are going to be having a resurgence. So instead of people wanting to go, to the next state to try the exciting ice cream parlor. Do they call them ice cream parlors? If not, it just kind of went back in the yonder distance. But people may want to, maybe let's say travel, maybe not necessarily the ice cream stand down the street, but maybe go to 20, 30 minutes away, that sort of thing. So what are some ways to make a summer staycation both fun and exciting for both children as well as us big kids as well too?
That's a great question. I know for me, like we're finally getting a chance to see some friends and family that we haven't seen in a while, especially those grandparents need some time and affection. So I know we go to grandma's house and we like to bake, which is another one of the suggestions in my book. And one of our favorite things to bake is cupcakes. And so no matter where you can go, if it's a cousin's or other family member's house, you can always, cook something up together.
I think that that's just really scratching the surface in terms of the different things that we can actually do. I think another thing that actually comes to mind is that I know, like, I've resided here in the Buffalo, New York area for my entire life, and there's areas, there's beautiful parks that are here nearby that exist, but I don't know that they exist, right? And it's kind of like there's certain areas in your own neighborhood that you've passed by, and it's like, wouldn't it be a great time to go to that particular place? You know, like you'll drive past the place and maybe you'll say, maybe one day, and maybe one day turns into a year, 2 years, or 5 years. But eventually it's like, all right, well, what can I do this summer? Here in the Buffalo, New York area, we have the Erie County Fair. It's the big county fair here. It's over 150 years old. It brings in well over 1 million people. And that's one of the big things that people look forward to in the middle of August every year. And it's not happening. So people are, starting to adapt. I know one of the things that's happening here is that there's starting to be some drive-in concerts.
Oh, nice.
Right? People are, they're still doing the social distancing, the physical distancing sort of thing. They're still able to get their music in the process, even just as simple as being outside. And this is another thing that I wanted to talk about, because obviously this book has such a nature theme. And we're talking about home is where the heart is. Yeah. And nature is who we are. Nature is a reminder of us being in our hearts. Yeah. When we're nervous, or when we're in any sort of doubt, or just any sort of, even if it's just a temporary funk that we're in, it's long since been said, you go into nature. That's where you can talk to God, where you can talk to spirit, you can talk to the universe, right? Yeah. Could you talk to our listeners and viewers, could you talk to our friends and neighbors about how nature helps us to remember our truest self and helps us to be more in our hearts in the process?
Yeah, I definitely love being in nature. It makes me feel really grounded. I especially love taking my shoes off and feeling different surfaces with my feet, whether it's grass or sand or water, and getting out. We've been doing walking tours of our neighborhood since everything was closed. And so we just get out in nature. We have some big kind of wild parks in our area, and we like to go out, and we still stay distance, but we get to, see dogs, and we have a large squirrel population here, and crow and birds singing. And so we like to go out and just hear the sounds of nature and the feeling, and kind of treasure hunting. We recently discovered some fool's gold in our local park. And so we've been paying attention and kind of treasure hunting as we hang out outside. And then we can bring a little piece of the outside in with us to remember that experience.
I feel that when it comes to nature, again, this is where sometimes there's times in life where words aren't even necessary. You can go to nature and you can just be still. Yeah. You can still have, in the words of Neil Donald Walsh, you can still have conversations with God if you want to, but that's one of the very few places I think that we can go to where our mind can shut off. Yeah. I feel that, over the course of these past several months, we've kind of maybe gone back and forth between totally being in our heads with, the collective fear, the collective panic, the collective chaos energy. But we've also been given the opportunities to kind of rewire ourselves from the way in which we thought, if we want to detach from that sort of matrix and not be a part of those sorts of storylines anymore, and just actually be more in our heart. Right. So nature is one of those go-to sorts of places. Right. Yeah. And then, of course, again, needless to say, like when you're out in nature, you can see like hedgehogs, you can see, little squirrels, you can see any sort of nature in the process, all the different parts of nature, I should say. One of the great things, I feel like you're a great person to be able to talk to, because you can talk about both the illustration perspective and the writing perspective. Summer reading. This, when you normally think of summer reading, you think, okay, hey, great, kids are reading books. I feel that this year for summer reading is different, because the way in which children concluded the 2019-2020 school year, it was we weren't planning on this for the kids. Right. this unknown still, people are starting to plan things out for going back to school. Some schools they're going to look different. We know that, at least for the time being. When the kids go back, it'll either be physically, depending upon where a specific area is located. It still may be a little bit more of the distance learning, remote learning. So I feel that there is this safe haven, that summer reading provides this safe haven. It's like this bridge. Here's where we were with the extended quarantine, for several months, schools being closed, parents kind of pulling their hair out, learning to go back to school again. Yeah. And then you're in the fall, right? And kind of planning. So it's kind of like summer reading really is this bridge, it's this safe haven. Could you share with us what you feel from your perspective as a mother, as a children's illustrator, as a children's author, having a very deep connection with children? What do you feel are the benefits of summer reading this year? And why is summer reading paramount to be able to utilize and implement for our little ones to prepare them for heading back to school?
I think, I agree. Summer reading is really important. For me personally, daily reading is important just to keep up the skill. And in our household, we typically do bedtime stories. Sometimes we'll also do some afternoon stories, but it's a really great time to, I prefer reading together to make it a shared experience. And then we have a chance to talk about what we read and to connect. And it gives me a chance to listen and really hear my child's heart. And I really think that reading through the summer is great because it's kind of like you don't have a gap in learning. You stay in the method of learning, in the process, and it just makes it easier to continue. So I'm a big advocate for daily reading.
And I feel that, especially since there is some form of unknown, right? Things are starting to become a little bit clear, right? But there still is some kind of unknown. I think that many, children, as well as us big kids, we kind of long for March 1st. We all want to go back to March 1st of 2020, but that's not possible, right? And I feel that, summer reading, especially right now, it continues to integrate the new things that children are learning.
Yeah.
It also provides them with a safe space to be able to kind of integrate all of this in, right? Acknowledging the fact that, okay, I can, tap into my creativity, I can tap into my imagination. Kids right now, I feel that, like, and this will kind of lead into my next question. I feel that, kids are being able to have that time right now to themselves where they can be more in their heart, so that when they go back out into back to school, and I'm not going to call it craziness, right? But there's, a little bit of the realignment. We'll call it the realignment that's happening. The kids are prepared for that, right? And I think that there's you honestly can't go wrong with summer reading in any way, shape, or form. And I think that there's also a more of a one-on-one connection. This is also one of the reasons that I enjoy sharing the Children's Book Spotlight series and the Storytime with Mr. Jonathan episodes that we do here at Empowered Publicity every Thursday. Because with summer reading before, kids would go out to libraries, maybe they'd go to camps. Mm-hmm. They don't have the opportunities to do that, at least this particular summer. Again, for those of you who are just tuning in, we are beginning to wind down our time with children's illustrator and author Jessica Dawn. We are sharing the message of Home is Where the Heart Is, as well as the brand new children's book, Jessica's newest children's book, Stay at Home. It is available at Amazon.com. While there, you can head on over to Amazon. And again, feel free to leave a 5-star review in the process if you feel guided to do so. You can also keep the connection going with Jessica by connecting with her via her official website, myfirst.com. That's with the number 1. Again, we don't know where myfirst.com will take you, but we know where myfirst with the number 1.com will take you. What are the importance of children being in their hearts is that's where it's at, right?
Yeah.
We're here as parents, caregivers, custodians for children, because we hope and we pray that collectively they don't have to go through some of the things that we did, our parents did, our grandparents and our forefathers and foremothers did, right? And I feel that this is where it all begins, is staying in the heart. What are some, for all of the parents who are tuning in, as well as for all of the educators that still kind of have a little bit of a connection with their, with their students during the summer, and even as they prepare themselves, prepare the little ones to be able to go back to school. And for those that maybe be even watching this episode of the Children's Book Spotlight series in the fall, what are some ways that we can help our little ones to be able to stay in their hearts and to help them remember that feeling of when you're in your heart, you're actually experiencing the feeling of being home?
That's a great question. I think having, wow, that's a big question. Helping kids stay more centered in their heart, I think will help them. They could be more patient with themselves and others. I know before this all happened, we were rushing one thing to another, and we didn't really have time to let it catch up with us. And we've had a chance to really process and come up with plans for the future, plans of how we deal with things when they become too busy or too much. So I would say that moving forward, I know for me and my household, to take the time to be centered and be in the moment and live the best present life. I think that's a way we can bring it into the future.
Sometimes when we talk about things such as the heart, like that's something that we need to just take the time and just be with.
Yeah.
And sometimes, many of us are uncomfortable with that pause or that silence, so to speak. But, let's be honest, Jessica, that when there's that silence, that's when we can actually take the time to be in our hearts. So, one of the things that, I encourage all parents, if this resonates with you, educators, if this resonates with you, don't necessarily have to wait when the kids go back to school. One of the first things that you can do when your little one wakes up in the morning is whether it be to assist them in doing this or to teach them to this, where they can spend time in the morning just connecting to their heart. Because, many of us as adults and big kids, right, we can just slap the alarm. We're running to check the email and it's off to the races, right?
Yeah.
But if we take the time and we just center ourselves and we're in our heart space, the odds of the day going that much smoother and more efficiently increase to our advantage. And even if something is presented to ourselves, right, that might be a little interesting, as I like to call it, right, little interesting, it's a very neutral term. We're more capable, because when we're up in our head, we may necessarily not be able to see things clearly, but when our heart, we can say, okay, I'm being presented with this, but I know that I can move through this, right? And that's obviously such a good feeling in the process. For those of the little ones that are experiencing just the magic of when they're reading Stay at Home, what are some of the messages, some of the takeaways that you hope that not only children have, but also parents, grandparents? It's interesting because, when we were first introduced to one another, it would be very easy just to label this as a COVID book, right? And there's a lot of people, when there's something happening in the world, they'll just kind of write a book about it, right? And make it kind of like this part of history. Like, oh, well, there was COVID, so I wrote a children's book, and then it's kind of on the shelf. But I feel that the more that you've been able to share about and talk about your message, there's so many universal truths to this book that last well beyond whatever COVID-19, however long it's going to be here for. So what are some of the takeaways that you hope that little ones and parents, whoever actually reads Stay at Home, take away when they read the book for the first time or for the 5th time or the 10th time?
So every page I illustrated with an overwhelming sense of peace. And so even if you look at that little hedgehog and his little sleeping face, most of the animals are sleeping in the book. They're at rest. They're at peace. I know when COVID first hit and, kids came home from school and everything was kind of hitting all at once and couldn't go to jobs anymore. And there was all this change and anxiety. I just wanted to bring peace into the situation and a sense of rest and a sense of it's okay to just relax and let go. So that's what I'm really hoping people can continue to get out of the book when they see the cute little animals snuggled up and snuggling each other. There's a mama bear and a little cub that are resting peacefully in their little cave. And it's everything from the small little active squirrel up to like the big bear. They all have a time where they can be at peace and rest and hibernate, where there's other times when they're really active and can be ferocious even when it comes to the bear. So what I hope people take away from this and continue to get out of it is a sense of peace. And there'll be a lot more times in the future when people will be staying at home for other reasons, storms, if they're sick and healing for personal reasons. And so I know this will probably become one of our staple stay-at-home sick books. Yeah.
I do also want to take the time to share with our friends and neighbors here actually my favorite illustration in the book. And for those who love unicorns, like get ready for this. But I'm just actually going to share the passage from the book. Blanket fort. Grab blankets, sheets, pillows, and stuffies. This is the second time that I've actually heard the term instead of stuffed animals. This is the second time. I was on a call earlier today, and the author that I was speaking with actually used the term stuffies. I find it adorable. You can build a fort, tent, or a palace. Yeah. Right. And this is just it's just amazing. It's just like, there's the unicorn, like totally protected, totally safe.
Yeah.
So blankets and pillows and sheets all around, which I feel is so fantastic. I think that one of the last things that I wanted to be able to share, because we talked about the little ones. And I feel that honestly, Jessica, that and I think that we talked about this off air, is how children's books provide so much healing right now for adults. Yeah. Because as adults, we can take life way too seriously. We took life way too seriously before all this happened. And now it's like, oh, Lord, right? So you talk about the message of peace.
Yeah.
And I feel that there are many people that have been taking the time, even before all this happened. People have been doing the internal work if they've been guided to do so. And this feeling of peace, I feel that many people right now are at this tipping point. What solstice really symbolized, this eclipse really symbolized, is a closing of the door to the past. Beforehand, we would want to close the door, but then we want to reopen it. We kind of want to revisit, and there's a difference between revisiting the past and staying in the past, just to be very clear about that. So to the big kids that are watching, that feel that they're on the cusp of liberation, that they're feeling that they're ready to embrace that feeling of peace, what would you share to those people? And then on the flip side of things, there are many people that are struggling for peace. They're pining for peace. And they're wondering whether or not it's going to happen for them this lifetime. And people are really having choices right now, depending upon whatever's in their life right now. Many people, may decide alternative ways, including saying, I'm just going to come around next lifetime and kind of do this all over again. What would you share to those people who are struggling to find peace? So two different groupings of people that are on the verge of embracing peace as their new norm, their new way of life. And those on the flip side that may feel that they're at rock bottom or wondering if things can get any worse. What would you share to both groupings of people?
Well, I know two things that stop people from experiencing true peace is unprocessed grief and hurts. And so sometimes when we sit with ourselves, we think about the past, we kind of get stuck in the past. But if people could could sit with their grief instead of, we kind of get pushed after a trauma to move on, to stop trying to kind of buck up. But if people could actually feel it and go through it and process it instead of putting it aside or pushing it down. So I feel like a lot of people could process their grief and go through their grief and know that it's okay to have those big feelings and it's okay to talk about those big feelings. And once they can kind of do that, I felt a lot of peace once I was able to do that. And like another thing that helps me, if I sit quietly with my some of my favorite things around me, like my favorite music playing and some of my favorite objects, and it's just very comforting. Like that blanket fort, I would find very comforting to climb in there and have some of my favorite things around me, read my favorite book, and to have a sense of security can give you a
Mm.
sense of peace. And so if you're not feeling secure, it's really hard to get to a peaceful place in your mind. So creating a secure place for you and identifying what makes you feel unsafe or insecure and either eliminating that or getting away from that would do a lot to help people find peace.
Jessica, if this is okay with you, one of the things that I really want to set the intention for is for all people, not even just those two groupings of people. Peace is a choice,
Mm,
right? And no matter whatever's happening in your sphere, in and around your spheres of right now, I encourage all of you, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and yes, our fellow shining stars, right? That no matter what is happening in your life, that you can choose peace. I think as the expression goes, it's you can choose this or you can choose peace. And no
mm,
matter what's happening in your outside world, you don't necessarily have to let that throw off your inner balance, your
yeah.
inner alignment, right? And I feel that, one of the things we're seeing a lot of unrest that's
Mm,
happening in the world, whether it be between, the protests, the police brutality, even just, people not treating each other nice,
mm,
right? It's a matter of it all. People ask, what can we do, right? Yes, you can make the $100 donation to to Black Lives Matter, and we encourage you to be able to do that if you feel guided to do so. It also makes sense at the same point in time to take the time to do that internal work. And even if it just means loving yourself more and taking those small little incremental steps each and every day, because eventually you do get to that tipping point where your life becomes like Disney's Aladdin, where literally you can have the summer of magic and miracles and the fall of magic and miracles and the winter of magic and miracles. So, Jessica, one of the things that we love to do here at the Children's Book Spotlight series is a little segment called Three Wishes. Yes, we just carry a genie lamp for no particular reason. It makes sense to kind of have this. If anything, it brings good energy here into our office. You have done such great things for children and parents and families in the Pacific Northwest. I just realized, by the way, Seattle is the Emerald City.
yeah.
Emerald is the color of the heart chakra. There's a heart connection. See, everything comes full circle, right? But you have given so much to children, not only in the Pacific Northwest, parents and families, but across the country and around the world. You've given to your family, to your loved ones as well. So you're being given three wishes. Now, I always like to encourage our friends and neighbors, our listeners and viewers that, the old school expression, be careful what you ask for because you might get it. Now it's like, just be very careful what you do ask for because you do get it. So whether it be these wishes are for your little one, whether it be for your extended family, whether they be for yourself, it's okay to use one or all three wishes for yourself for the planet. What would those three wishes be, Jessica?
This is actually something I've thought quite a bit about. I think that they would be I I love seeing people be vulnerable and I love helping people. Like those are passions of mine. And so I thought if I could have a magical power, it would be um kind of a healing and growth power. So like I could touch any water and it would turn into clean, pure water. I could, I could touch like I grew up on a farm, so growing things is very important. I have a nice little garden. So being able to touch something and have it be its best kind of form of life. So I guess it's kind of like a Midas touch, like one for water and purity, one for growth and fertility, and then the other one would be peace. So like, I guess I would just love to go around the world touching things and seeing them be their best version of themselves.
Jessica, you're very much doing that, right now in the way that you're able to do that. I feel that we talked about this before, how children's books bring so much healing into the minds, excuse me, into the minds and hearts of children as well as adults as well too. And being able to help people remember the light that they have within them, remember their skills, their gifts, their talents. Those are healing capabilities, right? I think that, many of us would love to be able to kind of do what Jesus Christ did, turn the water to wine or the bread to fish. Like, wouldn't that be amazing, right? Yeah. And I feel that it's important for us to be able to, again, to remember to be more in our hearts, because this isn't just a buzzworthy theme for this week on the Children's Book Spotlight series, that home really is where the heart is. There is realistically no other way to phrase that. One of the other things that we'd like to do here on the Children's Book Spotlight series are one of our favorite neighbors, this guy behind us, right? And it's interesting because as soon as I say this guy, it's interesting. Let there be light. Mr. Rogers, let there be light, right? When Mr. Rogers received his Lifetime Achievement Award at the Daytime Emmys a couple of years before he transitioned, and he did this during several commencement speeches, other speeches that he did, and maybe even have been on some of the episodes of The Neighborhood. He encouraged all of us, especially children, to take the time to be still, whether it be 10 seconds, 30 seconds, or 60 seconds, and remember those who helped love us into being. Who would some of those people be that helped love you, Jessica Dawn, into being?
I mean, definitely my parents and grandparents. I had a very strong, close connection with my grandparents, and I have a very large extended family that's very close. So I'm very close with my first cousins, my second cousins, my third cousins, one's removed cousins. So for me, it's definitely been friends and family.
Yeah. We encourage all of you, our friends and neighbors, our listeners and viewers as well. If you're tuning in for the first time, or if you've been with us over the past 81 weeks, I'd like to thank all of you who have been with us for the past 81 weeks, by the way. To take the time just to be still, to be in your heart, to close your eyes and remember those people who helped love you into being. Even just 3 of them that come to mind right now. I'd like to mention my 3, if that's okay with you, Jessica. One of my first college professors, Professor Zan Robinson. He was my English 101 professor. And I remember, college is very, when you're having that shift from high school to college, that was my first introduction to, further academia, so to speak, right? And he provided so much compassion and love from his heart in the form of a professor. And he reminded me, hey, Jonathan, you have these skills, you have these gifts, don't be afraid to use them, right? So he's one person that actually came to mind. Another person that actually comes to mind is one of my dear friends and neighbors, I class him as a very big father figure in my life, Dennis DiPaolo. He's the owner of an Italian restaurant here in the Buffalo area, Elio DiPaolo's Restaurant. I've had the blessing of knowing Dennis for a little over 17 years right now. And he's very much someone that I'll actually be at the restaurant within the next couple of days. It'll be nice to actually have a meal at a restaurant, like totally exciting, right? It's a great way to spend a summer staycation. So he's another person that actually comes to mind. And, 2 of my dogs actually come to mind, Scotty and Hunter. One of the things that we realize is that our little furry friends provide so much compassion and love and understanding, right? I actually saw a video earlier on that put a smile on my face, where it was a dog holding a hose and he was running around. It's like, it must have been his owner, and he was squirting the owner with the hose, but it went on for like 3 minutes. And the dog was still holding on to the hose, right? I just found that so amazing. So for you to be able to take the time to remember those who helped love you into being in the process. This has been such a fantastic interview. So again, we encourage all of you, our friends and neighbors, our fellow shining stars, our listeners and viewers, again, to stay connected with Jessica you can head on over to her official website, myfirst.com. That's MY1ST.com. While on Amazon, if you purchase your copy on Amazon, and of course, the links we're sharing below in the comments. So you can just simply press one of the links, whether it be to Jessica's website or the Amazon link to stay at home, and you can leave your 5-star review in the process. Some future things that you're working on, some future projects, if you would like to be able to share in our closing moments, so that, people just, again, they're being introduced to your work. They're saying, Jessica, what's next for you leading into the end of 2020, beginning of the new year? Could you give us a little bit of a sneak peek if you could?
Sure. On my website, you'll see some of the other books that I've already created, and I'm working on currently kind of a commentary to the Giving Tree, and I'm calling it the Loving Tree, and it's just kind of a commentary on that and how I have a loving tree that I'm basing the story on, and so that's what I'm working on for my next book.
That's wonderful. And again, for all of you who are tuning in, you can stay connected with Jessica to be able to learn more about the Loving Tree when that becomes available. We are so excited to conclude our month-long celebration of dads, because this hasn't just been, we're not just celebrating Father's Day, yesterday and today. It's been a full-on month-long celebration of dads. So next week, our final episode of the Children's Book Spotlight series for the month of June. Every once in a while, we kind of venture out of the box a little bit. It's so important to be able to do that. Someone we have had the pleasure of getting to know, who is very much one of the trusted names in the Kidlit community. Jessica, you had the opportunities to be interviewed by him. We'll talk about that momentarily. But our featured guest next week on the Children's Book Spotlight series, if you love great children's books, then you're obviously familiar with the gold standard in the Kidlit community, Kidlit TV. Well, if you are a fan of the Kidlit TV Storymakers, which is the interview program that is featured on Kidlit TV, Rocco Staino is going to be joining us as our featured guest next week, June the 29th, for episode number 82 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. Rocco is the contributing editor for the School Library Journal. He's written for the Huffington Post. He's also the director of the Empire State Center for the Book. Rocco has many years, has worked with many children's authors over a long period of time. And him and the entire team, Julie Gribble, their production team, they do great work, which, by the way, continuing over the course of the coming weeks ahead, just as you saw Hal Price's The Bare Essentials and Stanetta Anthony's A Home for Sally be featured on Kidlit TV's Read Out Loud at Home, you will be seeing Jessica's one-on-one conversation with Rocco Staino, along with some of the other great authors that we have had the pleasure of working with over the course of the past several weeks and months. Some of our featured children's authors at Empowered Publicity be featured on episodes of Kidlit TV's Storymakers, as well as future editions of Kidlit TV's Read Out Loud at Home. So we're looking forward to sharing those with all of you. You can stay connected with us at Empowered Publicity via our official website at empoweredpublicity.com or any of our social media platforms. If you were on Facebook, by the way, we appreciate all of your support as well. We just recently clipped over 2,000 likes and nearly 2,500 followers. So to all of you for your support of Empowered Publicity, we thank you so much. You can, of course, like and follow Empowered Publicity on Facebook if you already haven't had the opportunities to do so. You can click the little bell to enable notifications so that you are directly connected with us each and every Monday evening at 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific for all new episodes of the Children's Book Spotlight series. We are breaking new ground this Thursday as episode number 10 comes your way of the Empowered Publicity Storytime with Mr. Jonathan, one of our favorite neighbors here at Empowered Publicity, former University of North Carolina women's basketball player, turned creator of the Little Instrumental series, Trinity Bursey. We had the opportunities to share her brand new release, The Little Piano, the first installment in the Little Instrumental series, this Thursday, 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific, for episode number 10 of the Empowered Publicity Storytime with Mr. Jonathan, where we'll not only be sharing The Little Piano, but also we'll be sharing more of Mr. Rogers' valuable lessons on love, and specifically how you are lovable. One of the great things that I actually love about about Trinity's book. It's interesting because before we mention our birthdays to conclude our time here together as part of our next trolley stop here at the Empowered Publicity Children's Book Spotlight Series, the back cover of this book is so beautiful. It says, "A little book with a big truth. You're loved because you're you, not for what you can do. Filled with colorful illustrations and catchy rhymes, it's a story you'll want to tell your children time after time." It's Cyndi Lauper's birthday. The connection that I have with my grandmother, every time that I hear the song time after time, it's like rock solid. So this is episode number 10, one of the most beautifully illustrated children's books we've had the opportunities to ever share at Empowered Publicity over the past 6 years, is The Little Piano. So you can begin to stay connected with Trinity. You can visit her official website at littleinstrumentals.com. I want to actually share this little character here, right here, so you have an idea of what we're going to be sharing. Here is Lyric the piano. I mean, come on now, a piano named Lyric who's learning to love herself. How super precious and adorable is that? And here's the master musician. You can see by how he looks. He almost kind of looks, he's got that similar colored energy scheme to Beast from Beauty and the Beast. This book's got like, it's got like a lot of Disney energy almost, right? So that is this Thursday at 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific. And we are super excited as well, too, because beginning 2 weeks, technically it's less than 2 weeks now. Oh my gosh, we are beginning to celebrate the 6-year anniversary celebration of Empowered Publicity. There is so much magic, so many miracles that will be happening, especially during the month of July. We've got some great episodes of the Children's Book Spotlight Series. Some of the top names in the kidlit community will be joining us here on the program. We're going to be sharing some amazing children's books throughout the month of July as part of the story time with Mr. Jonathan. So, of course, we're going to be just sharing more details. We're going to be sharing so much more over the course of the next several days and weeks ahead. Before I forget, to all of you who are celebrating birthdays in our neighborhood at Empowered Publicity, to all of you, our friends and neighbors and our shining stars, our listeners and viewers, all of you who are tuning in tonight and this week who are celebrating their birthdays, we also want to give specific mentions to those that we are connected with here at Empowered Publicity who are celebrating birthdays. Victoria Morgan, Amy Barone, Dean Giles, Christine Carney, so many friends and neighbors, my heavens. Agiro Graffi, such a great children's author in the Toronto, Ontario, Canada area, who has helped to bring such an adorable character named Bentley the hippo to life. One of our favorite neighbors, also in the Pacific Northwest, one of Empowered Publicity's proud alumni, Adrian the Champ Starks, is celebrating his birthday. Someone who has done such great work for those here in the Buffalo and Western New York area. She is just such amazing work with Make-A-Wish, Western New York, here in the Buffalo area. Kate Glazer, who's actually going to be giving birth to, I believe, I think either one little one or two little ones actually in the coming weeks ahead. So birthday blessings go out to her. So many birthdays this week, Jessica. To Laura Brecken, one of our favorite neighbors out in California. To Michelle Missy Bollard, such a great children's author. She's celebrating her birthday as well. So there's so many people that are celebrating birthdays. So again, we like to serenade our neighbors here in Spanish. Feliz cumpleaños. A ti feliz cumpleaños. A ti feliz cumpleaños. A ti feliz cumpleaños. A ti. Yes, I actually break into song here on the Children's Book Spotlight Series in the Story Time with Mr. Jonathan. So to all of you, take the time to be in your heart today, this week, if you are celebrating a birthday. Realize how far that you've come and realize that the best magic, the best miracles have not even happened to this particular point in time. If you are a children's author, if you are a children's illustrator, and you would like to appear as a featured guest on the Children's Book Spotlight Series to share your inspiring story and the release of your brand new children's book, you can stay connected with us. You can connect with us here at Empowered Publicity. Head on over to our official website at empoweredpublicity.com, or you can stay connected with us via any of our social media platforms, Facebook and Instagram at Empowered Publicity, and Twitter at Empowered_PR. If you would like to have your brand new children's book be featured on the Story Time with Mr. Jonathan, you know where to connect with us. Again, the perfect bookends and complements to one another. The Children's Book Spotlight series every Monday at 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific, and the Storytime with Mr. Jonathan every Thursday evening at 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific. If you are an inspirational author or a spiritual author, in addition to a children's author, and you would like to see how we can be of service to you here at Empowered Publicity, because we are PR from the heart. If you would like to learn more information on our media coaching and mentoring program, if you're interested in facilitating your own virtual media tour, if you would like to facilitate press and media coverage for the release of your brand new inspirational, spiritual, or children's book, if you would like to be able to create some media opportunities in your own backyard, feel free to connect with us at empoweredpublicity.com. You can schedule your own courtesy 30-minute discovery call, and we can see how we can be of service to you. One final time, the brand new release. Here's the hedgehog for like the 13th time. The brand new release, Stay at Home. It is now available. You can head on over to myfirst.com. Again, that's with the number 1, myfirst.com. You can also head on over to Amazon. Leave your 5-star review if you feel guided to do so in the process. Again, Jessica's doing great things, not only in the Pacific Northwest, but also for children across the country and around the world as an amazing illustrator and author, truly one of the most gifted ones in the kidlit community. Let us not forget the message of our favorite neighbor from the other side. He is reminding all of you that you are perfect, you are whole, you are healthy, you are complete just the way that you are. That I like you just the way that you are. Our 2 favorite series of numbers here at the Children's Book Spotlight series and Empowered Publicity, 143. Somehow Mr. Rogers weighed 143 pounds for his entire natural adult life. Go figure. I'd like to know what that secret actually is. That means that I love you. But of course, we never fly solo. You're never alone. Whether you're a kid or you're a kid at heart, 243 means that we love you. And of course, because Jessica has joined us as our featured guest, 243 means that we love you. The last thing to actually mention is to all of you who now are staying connected with us via our official YouTube channel. One of the great things that we actually do is if you want to be able to watch episodes of the Children's Book Spotlight series with your little one, every single Monday, shortly after we are done with our live edition of the Children's Book Spotlight series, you can head on over to youtube.com/empoweredpublicity, and you can take part in the instant premiere. It sounds like a Hollywood premiere of the Children's Book Spotlight series. So amazing, right? But if YouTube is your favorite portal of choice, we encourage you to be able to subscribe to the Empowered Publicity YouTube channel as well. And you can, of course, begin to follow along with all new episodes of the Children's Book Spotlight series and the Story Time with Mr. Jonathan. So in case if you miss us on Facebook and YouTube is your social media platform of choice, you can head out on over to YouTube. Somehow, we all managed to fit on this trolley, and somehow the trolley always moves by beams of light. We've got that beam of light to catch. So to all of you, our friends, our neighbors, our listeners and viewers, we really appreciate you taking the time to spend some of your time here with us this evening and this week at Empowered Publicity and here in our neighborhood. We look forward to connecting with all of you this forthcoming Thursday, 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific, for episode number 10 of the Empowered Publicity Storytime with Mr. Jonathan, as we'll be sharing the brand new release from Trinity Bursey, The Little Piano. And then also next Monday, June the 29th, as the contributing editor to the School Library Journal and the host of Kidlit TV Storymakers. Look at that big smile, right? Michael's such an adorable soul, such a great guy. We're going to be having him as our featured guest here next week on the program. To all of you, to the parents, to the teachers, to the librarians, to the principals, to all of the custodians for the children, even if you're just doing your part to watch over the children as you are guided to in the process. If you're an aunt, you're an uncle, even if you don't necessarily have your own children, even if you're just taking care of the little one inside yourself, thank you for taking the time to walk home the children of the world. For Jessica Dawn, for myself, Jonathan Masiulionis, we hope you've enjoyed this trolley stop. If this message has helped you, if it's inspired you, if it's brought healing into your heart, if you feel that the message of home is where the heart is needs to be shared with someone in need, someone who might be going through some sort of a challenging time right now, we encourage you to share episode number 81 of the Children's Book Spotlight series on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, your favorite social media platforms of choice. So until we connect once again, friends and neighbors, thank you for spending some time with us here in our neighborhood at Empowered Publicity. And again, thank you for helping to walk home the children of the world. Thanks again, friends and neighbors. We'll talk once again very soon. Take care.